attention all patriots. It's time for the Signal 50 podcast, where we talk about the hard truth about today's current events.
Welcome, everybody, to the Signal 50 podcast. It is Sunday, March 21st, 2021. A beautiful weekend in the mid-Atlantic, all the way up to the northeastern part of the country. No snow, no winter. Winter's kind of history. So, welcome to spring, everybody. Bravo, welcome back. I know you were busy doing things on Wednesday night, and we had Professor X on in your stead, and he had some fairly decent-sized shoes to fill.
Wow. I heard the show. It was fantastic. I hope to get him back on. The professor was phenomenal to listen to. Your conversation, both of you had some interesting points, especially from two ballistic experts. Wow. I listened to it twice just to kind of get my head around it, because even though there was a couple of in the weed type things, it was very well. He's very well spoken. The concepts are sound, but the implications to our freedom are clear and evident. So I thought it was fantastic.
Well, I was honored to be able to get him on the program, and I really wish we could share more details about him, his background. Let's just suffice it to say, super interesting guy to begin with at face value, without getting into too much detail. He's super interesting. He's an incredibly intelligent guy, knows his business inside out, backwards and forwards, up and down, for sure.
Yeah.
And he's a gentleman, most importantly. I'm fortunate enough to be acquainted with him through circumstance. It's just kind of weird how these things happen. And we became, not close acquaintances, but good acquaintances over the past, I would say, year. From time to time, I would make a guest appearance on a certain live stream that he takes part in as well. And we have some really interesting and very technical conversations in that venue. This is not the venue for that, but when we're talking about things like that, things can get technical very quickly.
Oh, but it was at the point where a little bit of knowledge helps bring people to that little bit higher level of understanding. It works. I think it works pretty well. So.
Well, hey, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Listen, I was honored to be able to have him on the program. I would love to be able to say more about his background, because everybody out there listening would be just absolutely fascinated by this guy. But I can't. So, just there it is.
Just as a couple of housekeeping things, we're going to have some other interesting people on. I think that bring the conversation a little bit full circle for all of you out there who listen to us. And we're cresting at 500, so we'd like to see us get some more here on Rumble. So if you get a chance, make sure you give us rumbles, please. Make sure you subscribe to our channel.
And make sure to share the videos also. If you're on Rumble, and we understand that Rumble's not as popular as YouTube, obviously, okay? It is becoming more and more popular. The way that we get our message out and the way we can get more people to listen and participate in what we do is get shared. Share the media, share it around. Our main avenue of distribution of the message that we're trying to send is podcast. But Rumble is a fantastic venue.
Yep. And just for the YouTube folks, we do have the rights, the music that we're using. It's in the show notes below. Please check that out before you start throwing copyrights at us.
Yes.
Heart attack.
Yeah. We're getting hit by YouTube. Everybody out there that's listening, we're getting hit by them with everything but the kitchen sink. When Bravo and I started this, the number one thing that we insisted on was, let's not do anything to give anybody any ammunition to come after us. Okay. And we made sure to buy the rights to what we're using. Everything that we use otherwise is in the public domain and fair use. We attribute everything to whom we borrow it from. So we don't do anything wrong. So anybody that's out there listening, keep trying. It just won't stick.
Right. So check out and these thumbs down and these negative comments, and you know what? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never harm me. It doesn't.
We must be over the target then.
Yeah, we must be. So with that being said, we have some interesting things we wanted to share with you. Today's topic is, of course, lies and truth. What's the difference? Where's the difference?
It's really hard to find that line these days now, isn't it?
I can't find it. Someone help me find that darn line because it's very blurred right now. But I think we're going to have some fun with this as we get going. So welcome to the show, everyone. It's good to be back. So we looked, we're hearing what the news is over the past week. We understand there seems to be the truth is trying to get out there, but it still keeps getting knocked down by the lies. But one of those things that I think is very important, Administrator Biden, is Doug Billings from the right side says, I like to use that also. I think it makes sense. Was having a little bit of tough time getting up the stairs to Air Force One.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he was, he got back up again.
It was very windy that day.
That's what they said. You know what the winds were at? I checked it was at an airport, so you can check these winds.
Check the METAR, right?
Right. 14 miles an hour. I mean, and according to Dan Scavino, and this is interesting. According to Dan Scavino, if there was ever that windy and they're concerned about, the plane, 747 is almost 75 feet tall. It's like, it's a couple of stories high. Anyway, so they use the lower staircase if it's that windy. They'll go in the baggage compartment and go in that way. So anyway, I think we may have found the real reason why here. I'm going to play this video for you, everyone. Let's see what happened when he was trying to get up the stairs.
I love it.
Well, for our podcast listeners, I basically played a video where it shows, President Trump's retired, I guess, for now, enjoying some golf and some R&R. And his drives went so far up to Andrews Air Force Base that it kind of knocked over President Biden. So there's the reason why President Biden was tripping over himself to get onto Air Force One. Although he was trying to run up the stairs, which, you should watch your step there, sir. I mean, it could be, for an elderly man, he is the oldest president, I think.
Well, listen, I don't wish the guy to get injured or anything, but geez,
right.
If you're that unsure of your footing, I mean, Jesus, take your time, damn it. Look, I'm not so sure that I enjoy the fact that he's the president of the United States. Unfortunately, he's the president of the United States, and I don't really want to see anything bad happen to the guy.
Right.
Take your time, dude.
Yeah. You don't have to run. I mean, he did make a comment before where he'll show everyone as he walks up the stairs, but he tripped. So, but he got back up and he finished. But that's, it's kind of scary. Anyway.
All right. So,
what are you going to do?
We got a bunch of things. We got a bunch of things that we want to talk about tonight, right?
Yeah.
Basically on the
something there.
Yeah, we'll start off with that. A little levity. I don't want to see the guy fall and break his ass on a flight of stairs going up to a 747. But look, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Anyhow, there are some things in the news that we want to talk about, and some stories about the truth and the lies that are going on. But there's really something that's going on now in this country that I really want to discuss, and we brushed upon it a little bit on Wednesday night when we were with Professor X. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that everybody can remember what happened to George Floyd. I mean, let's dispense with it. He died while being arrested by the Minneapolis Police Department, and in particular, a police officer who was had his knee in the middle of his back near his neck, named Derek Chauvin. Now, I'm sure everybody's really may or may not be paying attention to what's going on in the city of Minneapolis. Now, just a real short aside, and I might have mentioned it before. I live there. I lived there for a long, long time. I lived in the city of just outside of the city of Minneapolis. I happen to know a lot of the members of the Minneapolis Police Department, and through what I used to do for a living out there, just a great bunch of people. Black guys, white guys, Hispanic guys, Asian guys on the police department. Never met anybody that had any animus towards any one group or another of people. There were straight cops and gay cops and lesbian cops, brown cops, yellow cops, white cops. I mean, it didn't make any difference. It was a diverse police department. You know, forgive me for using the diversity term, okay, where it comes to that. Now, fast forward to the events of last summer, where George Floyd, it was an unfortunate altercation an unfortunate meeting between him and the Minneapolis Police Department. A lot of things around that.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, he expires during arrest. Let's leave the reasoning aside for now, okay? Mm-hmm. They're in the process, as we spoke on Wednesday night, and now I believe they may have just seated an entire jury.
From Minnesota?
Yep. Okay. So the trial is in Minneapolis, and they just finished seating a jury.
Is that a jury that's going to be impartial? Just an aside.
Well, I don't know how that's possible. They've had to excuse a couple of jurors already, and here's why. The city of Minneapolis, in their infinite wisdom, decided that they would pay out a $27 million settlement to the family of George Floyd. For wrongful death. Okay. The trial of the police officers that were involved in the arrest, the trials, they haven't even seated a jury in the trial of the main, quote unquote, actor that they have accused of contributing to George Floyd's death. And they have paid out a $27 million wrongful death settlement. I don't know about you, but where I come from, that's not justice.
No. Look.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. It gets better. There's more.
Wait, there's more.
And in a statement, the city attorney and the mayor's office all came out and they said, well, we're not sure that this amount of settlement would have been available down the road. What that means is they wanted to settle before a guilty verdict happened, or a presumptive guilty verdict happened. It was like, let's make a deal. So they have just, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not saying that Chauvin was right or wrong. The trial hasn't happened, and everybody needs to remember that. They have paid out a $27 million settlement for wrongful death when they haven't even proved it was a wrongful death.
That's right.
Okay. And further, 38th and Chicago Avenue South is the George Floyd Autonomous Zone. It is a lawless area that has been taken over by out-of-state actors that have held an entire neighborhood hostage for months. And the city of Minneapolis is allowing this to continue and go on.
It's ridiculous.
There was a homicide in there, and the people in charge of the autonomous zone hauled the dead body and threw it over the barricades. They cleaned up all the shell casings, and they said there's nothing to see here. And the Minneapolis Police Department were not even allowed inside to investigate. And the mayor and the city council allow this to happen.
How does that happen?
Why? I don't know why. It is virtue signaling gone absolutely awry.
Just being an outsider here, Alpha, I have to say this is ridiculous. Where's the National Guard? Why aren't they going in there to clean this up and get some order in there? And enough with the placating and the trial hasn't even happened yet. The evidence hasn't been shown yet. The leaks that have happened, we don't know if it's true or not. It has to be presented in front of a jury. And you know as well as I do, I don't believe that jury is impartial. I really don't.
Well, I don't think that there's any way that they can be impartial, especially when the city of Minneapolis has admitted fault in a civil settlement for $27 million. Now here's the rub on this $27 million. 500,000 of it were set aside for the people in the George Floyd Autonomous Zone.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yep. Now, everybody in the state of Minnesota gets to pay their little portion of the city of Minneapolis's malfeasance in this entire thing. Doesn't anybody find this to be just perplexing as hell?
It's a narrative that has gone awry. I believe that when the need came up to try and separate groups of people further, this is why you see this. And it's there's no words for it except for it needs to stop.
Not to mention the more than 500 buildings that were burned in the city of Minneapolis. The 3rd Precinct House, where police officers were almost burned to death by domestic terrorists. Okay?
Which is what they are.
That's exactly what they are.
BLM Antifa. That you cannot convince me otherwise that they're not domestic terrorists.
Exactly. Well, anyhow, enough of that. I just want everybody to go out and look at kstp.com. Go look at the stunning lack of coverage on any of this malfeasance that's going on by the city of Minneapolis. care11.com. Fox 9, Twin Cities, etc., etc. Look at all of the news outlets that are not covering any of this. It's only coming out in dribs and drabs. The Star Tribune, the paper of record in the state of Minnesota, not covering it.
There is some light at the end of this tunnel, Alpha, I believe. Project Veritas and James O'Keefe was able to judge in New York federal court, I believe federal court, federal court.
Yes.
Was able to secure the ability to move forward against a lawsuit against the New York Times.
Yes.
And it is shining the light on how corrupt the news media is.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that this will spawn on others to do the same thing. And the only way this corrupt media is going to get their head out of their proverbial rectal orifice is if they go ahead and they get held responsible. And I'm not just talking CNN paying out a couple, however million to the 16-year-old that was just standing there and not.
Well, he's now the highest paid employee of CNN.
Right. So, and the other good news is that CNN's ratings have gone through the bottom. They don't have anyone to blame. President Trump is not the constant story. And
right.
There's nothing to report on. So,
well, we're here to tell the truth. Okay. So let's tell the truth. All of cable news, all of it Newsmax,
too.
Fox, everybody, MSNBC, blah, 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 blah. They have all taken a ratings hit over the past couple of months because nobody is paying attention right now.
That's right. What are they paying attention to? They're going to the populist press. They're going They're going to news sites. They're going to Dan Bongino, who just happened to have gotten asked to take over for the great Rush Limbaugh's space, 12-3. Congratulations, Mr. Bongino.
He's not. It's important to note he is not taking over for Rush Limbaugh.
The time spot, I said.
Right.
Yeah, he's taking over the time spot. He said outright, he said he's not trying to take over for Rush. He can never replace him. That we all completely understand that. I'm replaceable at my job, but Rush Limbaugh is not replaceable.
No, he invented the game.
That's right. But he does get the 12-3 spot on AM radio all over the place and FM radio all over the place.
600 stations.
And he continues to do his podcast. So
that's right. He's going to be a busy boy.
Good for him. I'm tickled pink. Anyway,
that is absolutely life-changing for him and his family. We wish him nothing but the best and success. He's got a hell of a megaphone now, and he's a true conservative warrior, and we really wish him all the best, and we will continue to support him in all the ways.
Yep. So I thought we'd kind of switch gears here to a little scene here that, of course, Alpha, you understand how windmills are so effective and so environmentally friendly to that out there, and how we should just be building these things all over the place. Although where they really should be built is out in the ocean, where the winds are constantly 20 knots or higher, because it's out in the ocean there. But so for the podcast listeners, there's basically a windmill in the forefront just turning and turning. And behind that, there's one that stopped turning and is on complete fire. And they're trying to get someone down to come and take care of this windmill that's on fire, and it just drops. Well, get another page out to him, because there's just another piece of this windmill that drops. So not only is it on fire, but it dropped down a piece, and now it started a big brush fire.
Okay, so here's the deal with those. Here's the deal with those. The company I used to be loosely associated with some of the engineering that goes into these things. First of all, those things are tremendously big.
They're ginormously huge. I wouldn't even know how you even get up there to get water up that high unless you have a big stick.
You can't get anywhere near it, because if that thing wants to collapse for whatever reason, you're nowhere that you can get close enough to put water on it is safe. Okay?
Gotcha.
You're in the collapse area. No matter where you go, you can't get there. You're going to have to drop water on it from a helicopter, which isn't going to happen.
Right.
Thing's going to burn. It's going to fall. You can't deal with it until it's out. You can't be within a couple 100 feet of it. Wow. They hold a tremendous amount of lubricating oil for the gearbox. The gearbox in that thing and the transmission, they hold, I don't know, probably hundreds of gallons of oil.
Really?
All right. Oh, yeah. They're huge.
A couple of barrels full, huh?
Probably about 4.
Wow. That's amazing.
They're just tremendously big machines, all right? And they're super expensive. That's probably like a $2 million fire.
Wow.
Yeah, really? By the time you get done dealing with that thing.
Wow.
So, and they kill all the birds.
Yep. So there's your green infrastructure right there, I think.
Yeah, and they're awesome until you want to put them off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, and the pinky, the tea sipping pinky elevated crowd is like, oh no, not in the vineyard. We can't have windmills in the vineyard. We can't see them. It's atrocious. My
vista must not be enhanced.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I look down my nose at all of you peons.
Yes. Anyway.
Put the windmills in the peons' neighborhoods.
So, in terms of windmills, you know what my thought is on them. Let's continue using natural gas and oil, and
they have their place.
That's right, but it's not something that we should rely upon.
No, they learned that lesson the hard way in Texas.
That's right. So
they all froze and they didn't work and they were out of power. Yeah, fun times.
in the ongoing theme of our lies and truth, the Congress, it seems like they were ganging up on one of my favorite representatives to come along, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is out of Georgia. She was about to be voted out by the Democrats. There's a couple of Democrats that want to take her out, not physically, but figuratively vote her out of Congress. Okay. Meanwhile, you had Omar and Occasional Cortex and all the other ones that are running around spewing lies all over the place, and they all love them. But someone that stands up for the Second Amendment and a whole bunch of other things that she was taken off her committees because she impeached Joe Biden. She brought the articles of impeachment against Joe Biden.
Yep.
And they go after her with a vengeance.
I thought there were rules about workplace retaliation in this country.
Well, only for
Democrats, right?
Liberals, you can't do that. So she survived the hit, figuratively, again, for all the quote fact checkers out there. They couldn't take her. They couldn't get her. Pelosi, interesting enough, this is the story behind it, was not interested in taking up the cause of throwing her out. She was willing to take up the cause of a fake impeachment, which was okay, fine. You can go ahead and try that route. But I guess they need a scapegoat now, and she's it. That's what my thought is. But she is very boisterous and very smart and a great communicator. And she gets, she's fine. She'll be fine.
She's fine.
Yeah.
She's fine. She's Trump in a skirt. She's fine.
Good. So she'll continue to keep the press on the Democrats and they keep getting them upset. Now, moving on to another topic that I wanted to play some more video because I think this was fascinating. When you have two physicians, okay, one that's actually
whoa. Is one of them truly a physician, or is he a researcher?
He has an MD, but he's got a PhD in piled high and deeper thinking. That's Fauci.
Right.
Now,
so he's not a clinician. He's not a clinician.
Not a clinician. He has not seen a patient since probably med school, when he was in med school, learning how to be an MD. Anyway, however, Senator / Dr. Rand Paul, ophthalmologist,
eye surgeon, extraordinaire.
Yep, ophthalmologist, decided to question Fauci on bring us your science. Where is your papers? Where's your information? So here's a video for this. Everyone should watch this and check this out.
Had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection. If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's not.
The vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater. Let's get down to the facts.
You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy? Tell them they can quit wearing their mask after they get the vaccine. You want people to get the vaccine? Give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective, and we
have immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask to give comfort to others. You're not wearing a mask because of any science.
I totally disagree with you.
That is all Fauci could come back with is, I disagree with you. Could not come back with any facts, any type of backing, any type of papers, nothing.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm just a simple guy. Okay, I'm just a dumbass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I had the chicken pox when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Am I immune from the chicken pox?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Now, I've had flu A before. Does that mean I'm immune to flu A?
You are immune to the influenza A strain of that type, it could mutate to the point where
just flu A.
Yeah, flu A goes. Well,
Yes.
there's different variants of
Yeah.
flu. You know what
Okay.
Fauci's trying to explain was there's different variants, and God forbid we don't. You know what though? When you're exposed to one and you get another variant of it, it's not going to take you out. And Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, was talking about how in another exchange with Fauci that the immune system we're not giving the immune system enough credit, and I think that's really the best argument I've heard since this whole pandemic nonsense started.
That's right.
Was the fact that flatten the curve, and then we have to protect everyone. Our immune systems can figure this stuff out on its own. We don't need to do this.
That's exactly my point. Bravo. That's exactly my point, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I've had flu A.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's another variant that might be like 1 or 2 genomes off of flu A, whatever, a little tiny mutation, I might get sick.
Right.
I might have cold-like symptoms for a couple of days, and then my body is going to adapt, and it's going to kick it out.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just a dumbass, but to me, once you get vaccinated for this thing, if they have any confidence in the vaccine that they're giving, then nobody needs to wear a mask. Not that they're effective anyways.
Right. Well, so here's the problem. When you start losing your ability to control and lose the perception that the power that's being held by a select few, they start bringing up other excuses. Like Europe right now is out of control in terms of locking down again because of a variant. And the variant supposedly is that people get sick and they'll get better. And again, the lethality, we've talked about this in previous shows, is not 50%. It's 0.001%. Again, unless you're infirm or you have some other comorbidities and you have a really bad reaction, is it possible you could die from COVID? Yes, it is. We're not saying you can't die from COVID. However, when it comes down to a majority, statistically speaking, your chances of succumbing to this is slim to zilch. Okay. And let your body take care of it. Now people are starting to stand up. You're starting to see demonstrations. You're starting to see people reject, go to work.
Right.
This is not going to continue. By the time we hit the summer, they're going to have no other choice but to let everyone kind of go into place. Now, the vaccine is being, like some of the true academics out there are saying, well, we don't have enough data to show. I said, look, the people that they tested the vaccines on, which were larger than normal, okay, and the FDA didn't know what to do with themselves as they were going through the process so quickly because they have to have micromanagement and control over these things.
Right.
President Trump, with Operation Warp Speed, basically said, no, we're going to get this thing out here. You three big pharmaceutical companies work together. Stop hiding from each other. You want our money, then you're going to have to go ahead and work together and share. Now, what's interesting, Alpha, real quick, if there was a cure, then they couldn't get the money for the vaccine. This is where, and I discovered this reading some things in the back chatter and some of the
there's no money in cures.
There's no money in cures. So what happened was, of course, the hydrochloroquinone, the treatment for
hydroxychloroquine.
Thank you. Yeah, that's late. I can't remember. Anyway, hydroxychloroquine did cure. It did prevent worsening. And on Mark Levin, he was telling how he's been taking it once a week. He's been traveling. He's fine. And he's got risk factors. And then he waited his turn to get his vaccine. So let's all just take a deep breath, everyone. And I'm not talking about the audience. I'm talking about the Democrats who are trying to control everything and flatten the curve 367 days later. Enough is enough.
Well, I'll go you one further. I'll go you one further. I can't put my finger on it today. I was talking to a good friend, and this person mentioned to me that they heard There was a published article, and I'm trying like hell to find it. I've got to get back with this contact and see if I can find this information, where there's a research scientist who went back through and audited all of the positive, or a significant number of the positive COVID tests from a certain state. And I believe it was Maryland. It was a sampling of 25,000 positive tests.
Mm-hmm.
They went back through, and instead of retesting, they used electron microscopy to go ahead and try to find the viruses in the samples. The only thing that they found in all of the positive COVID samples were, first of all, nothing.
Mm-hmm. Not COVID.
Not COVID.
No whatsoever. Right.
They found no COVID viruses in any of the samples, and in some of the samples, what they found were simple flus.
Huh. Imagine that.
Now, I can't verify this right now, but when I find the article, we're going to talk about it, okay? So I want everybody to think about that just for a quick second. And now, this same researcher is suing the CDC for more positive testing that they can review using the same procedure. And my understanding is the CDC is avoiding them and has violated the FOIA.
Of course they did.
Of course they did.
Now, this, of course, was my theory, my hypothesis at the beginning. Again, because what did I say? I said, because I don't see COVID zombies walking around, because I don't see people dropping dead, the numbers are inflated. This is all statistical. Not that people were dying from COVID induced complications, but it wasn't the panic and the malfeasance of the press that happened.
Are we sure it was COVID and not just some kind of a flu? Or the flu mixed with a good dose of hysteria?
Yep. Hey, our opinion is I don't believe it for 1 second. And it's, who knows? We'll have to see.
I'm not saying that COVID-19, SARS-CoV-19 is not a thing, okay? I'm just saying it probably wasn't as big a thing as they said. 500,000 people died in this country between March of last year and March of this year. According to statistics, that is not an anomaly. It is not an elevated death rate. No more people died in 2019, 2020, and so far to 2021 than died in the previous years. People still died of cancer, still died of straight up flu, still died of stroke and heart attack. And everything was labeled COVID.
That's right, because the money was being paid to those.
That's correct. If somebody came into the emergency room and they were having a heart attack, oh, Jesus, they had COVID.
Plus $100 plus whatever other, quote, things that need to be done to help treat the patient because of, quote, COVID.
Right. So there's a big incentive to call things that weren't COVID, COVID.
That's right.
So everybody needs to understand that there's not a lot of money in running a hospital.
Okay? Nope.
And everyone sees these doctors running around in Porsches. Well, let me tell you something about doctors. Doctors have got great lines of credit. Okay? They all have $750,000 worth of student loans out there, or $500,000 in student loans that they're trying to pay off at the same time at an exorbitant interest rate. And yes, they get paid a lot, but they don't make a lot of money. And these hospitals are paying a lot of money out too. A lot of overhead in running a hospital. The tort law in this country alone is enough to bankrupt a hospital. Okay? So when somebody comes into the emergency room who's got no insurance and the law says you have to treat them, and your chances are when you treat them and they're going to die anyways, you're not going to collect jack shit. there was a huge incentive for them to stamp COVID on the death certificate.
Mm-hmm.
So the federal government would come in like the white knight and pay the money.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree. Anyway, moving on to something else a little bit more distressing or aggravating, I guess, whichever way you want to put it. Let's talk about this little one of my political cartoon. Love those.
Oh, Jesus.
Here we have, again, from Branko. And he has a political cartoon of Biden with a see, Built Back Better. And there's a cage with a child that has a shirt on saying Biden let us in, and I wonder where they got the money to pay for those shirts if they're poor and they need amnesty, and a butterfly, a monarch butterfly, which I'm wondering what the symbol of that monarch butterfly is.
I have no idea, but
I don't either.
all I can tell you is these people have created an absolute nightmare.
No, this is, and again, when it comes down to the lies and the truth, the press are not going down to look at these things. The numbers have gone up 15,000 kids right now.
Well, I believe the percentage of capacity of the border intermediary facilities, the intake facilities where they're holding people before their disposition is determined. I believe at last check, I think last week, Thursday, these centers are operating where they're putting children in cages. Okay, like I don't see AOC down there now, do you? No, you don't. Okay,
you can't get the press down there. Not that they're interested.
No, they're not interested. They don't care because it was all about getting Trump out of office. Anyhow, these centers are running at 729% of capacity as of like last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if anybody out there is aware of this. They are not allowing press in there at all. It's a total press blackout.
Mm-hmm.
Project Veritas has sent teams down there, and they're going to be breaking stories on this tomorrow. So everybody needs to follow Project Veritas on Telegram.
Yep.
And we will post links and updates on our official Telegram channel from Project Veritas, showing you what they found down on the border.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Doesn't anybody not understand that border wall, except for areas where they had to put trucks back and forth and through, was about 90% complete?
Yep. Until Biden hit the administrative order pause, right? And all of a sudden, stops construction. I think Texas is trying to start it back up again on their own.
Yes, they are.
Which would be fantastically awesome, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I love Texas.
Yes. Anyway, so here's a couple of two sides of the truth and lies that our show today is kind of concentrating on. So we had a DHS secretary, and I marked this as a lie. The border is closed, but children won't be expelled. And if I had a bridge in Brooklyn, I would sell that to you really cheap. And it looks like Mayor Goss was then asked by Chuck Todd, so he's on the Sunday talk show circuit, softball, lack of press ability. That's my own opinion, not in the story here. But getting back to this, story here, whether the policy encourages parents in Mexico and other countries to send their children alone to the border. Can I stop there for a second? Would you ever send your child by themselves to the border? To what? Just get them in there, or it has to be accompanied by someone. Yeah. And I'm guessing it has to do with child trafficking and some other stuff to get people across the border.
And does anybody not understand that that's why children were separated from their adult escorts to determine if the people that they were with were truly their parents? They're doing DNA testing. They were trying to stop child trafficking, for God's sake.
Yep. So anyway, the story continues. This is from the Epic Times, by the way. We have a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a long-term plan. And the president and I have spoken to this repeatedly. please remember something, that President Donald Trump dismantled the orderly, humane, and efficient way of allowing children to make their claims under United States law in the United States home countries, in their home countries. The secretary said without elaborating.
I call bullshit on that.
Yes, he's full of crap.
I call bullshit on that. If you wanted to claim asylum under Trump, you had to do it in your home country.
That's right.
You don't cross the border and then beg for asylum.
And then get stuck here without your parents and then become an orphan to be fending on your own. To me,
or a burden on the taxpayer of the United States.
So just as a parent, just looking at this as a parent's point of view, I would never let my child out of my sight, let alone that there has to be some kind of money exchanging hands, or they're not just sending them up the border by themselves. They couldn't even figure out the way to get, across the street these days. You can't even send a kid by themselves down the block to get an ice cream cone without, having child abuse authorities come down and take their child away from you. So this is something else is going on. I don't have, all I know is that what this DHS secretary is spewing is complete crap.
Something is rotten in Denmark, and I don't know quite what it is, but.
So with that being said, so that's the one lie part. The only truth I could find, again, Epic Times, because they're really the only ones that are telling both sides of the story, that alarming, senators visit border, see surge in illegal immigrants firsthand. So Senator Rick Scott from Florida and Senator Rob Portman from Ohio both go down to the border, and there's pictures of them traveling around in helicopters and seeing the unlawful crossings. They're there and they're trying to get the word out.
Right.
But the press is nowhere to be found. And of course, the Democrats are covering this up as fast as it's piling up on them. But the problem is everyone is seeing this. Everyone is starting to wake up to the reality that the borders are open and come on over, and it's all Biden's fault.
Well, listen, I'm gonna relate a little personal experience to people. I worked for an outfit that was based down in McAllen, Texas, back in the mid to late 2000s, about 2007, 2008, 2009, beginning of 2009. We were based down in McAllen, Texas. When we went down there, we had a workshop and an office, and we had a garage and another workshop where we were doing different things. And we were right on the border. It was very, very close to the border. Let's just put it to you this way. All of these limousine liberals that think that, we should just let everybody in. Let me tell you something about open borders. We would sit there at night with night vision and watch the people cross through the fields just hundreds of yards away from where our campus was. It was a company regulation that if you went out at night on the campus, you did not go alone and you did not go unarmed. So let me tell you something. If anybody thinks that this is a good thing or a safe thing, you're out of your minds. The drug trafficking was blatant. They were hauling drugs across the border right through McAllen, Texas. You did not leave without a rifle at night for your own protection because nobody was going to help you. How do these people feel that are on this border? They live down there. People live there. American citizens live there, and they have people traipsing through their property all hours of the day and night that don't belong there.
Mm-hmm.
How safe is that?
Can't be.
It's not.
It's not. This is not what the government was supposed to be. President Trump showed true leadership, truly what it's like to have a secure border. And of course, it was secure. No one was coming across the border. The fence was almost finished. No big deal. ICE was doing their thing. The minute Biden got in, signed these executive orders, Congress isn't trying to stop them. They're not declaring, they're not bringing them to court. They're not bringing it to a couple of Texas is starting to try and get some lawsuits going so that they can stop this process from happening.
Well, what's worse is these caravans of thousands, tens of thousands of illegals started streaming northwards again in November, just the days after the election.
Yep. and they're letting them in. And then they're going to
They're letting them in.
COVID. Oh, don't even get me started on COVID. Where's
And,
COVID?
and well, we don't care about COVID. COVID's not a thing. If they
Yep.
were so worried about COVID, they would stop these people. They're not worried about COVID. This is not about COVID. COVID is not even a thing. They don't care. Okay? So everybody needs to stop virtue signaling about COVID.
Yep. Exactly. That's what it all is.
I'm tired of hearing about it. It is utter B as in B, S as in S. Full stop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Moving on.
Yep. So, with that being said, that's really all I could find in the truth and lies, because there's so many lies we'd have to be on for 5 hours just to go over through all the lies that I could find. So, there's other things going on. There's a lot of there's been a lot of resignations going on. We kind of talked about this briefly. There was a judge up in Michigan that was arrested for child pornography. There seems to be a lot of this going on, and it kind of goes back to our discussion we had about the depositions and the things that were being said and how people had things over other people. But it seems that the truth is coming out and getting out there to bring this to light. So, but other than that, those are the highlights.
It's all pretty disgusting. I mean, it's all pretty disgusting, everything that's going on out there. I mean, a couple of months ago, before, let's say, before this whole nonsense of COVID started, this country was riding high. We were at damn near full employment. There are more job openings than there were people to fill them. The economy was booming. People were happy. The price of gasoline was at an all-time low, or at a reasonable low, okay? The cost of consumer goods was on the decline. American manufacturing was moving back to the United States. America stopped being dependent on foreign oil. We were energy independent. And in just a few short months, Ford is now moving out of Ohio. They're moving plants back down to Mexico. The price of gasoline, I paid $3.25 a gallon today. About a year and a half ago, I was paying about $1.92, $1.89 for the same gasoline.
Yep.
We had the unemployment rate, 750,000 people in my state claimed unemployment this month. All right. A year and a half ago, we were at full employment. I think the unemployment rate was like 1%. And now you've got an unemployment rate over 14 or 15%.
Yeah. So,
yay, Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I think the next show we'll talk about what's coming, and the taxes are going to be going through the roof. They're even lying about what they're telling everyone about anyone 400,000 or more will pay their fair share. Well, guess what? It's going to be brought all the way down to $100 a year. If you make that, you'll be paying taxes on it, and they want it all because they're spending like drunken sailors and they cannot stop.
Well, let me. Well, first of all, that's not a Republican that's not a Democrat problem exclusively. Republicans
too.
They all spend too much. Okay, so does anybody understand? People just don't understand simple economics. Okay, when you raise business taxes, the cost of goods goes up. Businesses do not pay taxes by simple economics. Who pays the business taxes? The consumer.
Pass it on.
It's all a pass-through to you. Everybody wants a $15 minimum wage. That's great. You go get, your Happy Meal and fries, okay, which is like $6.95 for a cheeseburger, fries, and a small Coke for your kid. Get ready. You're going to be paying $12 to $14 for the same meal.
Yep.
Potentially. because businesses do not pay those expenses. The consumer does. So you may be making $15 at your minimum wage job, but your $15 is not going to go real far.
Nope.
It's called inflation, folks, and it's coming.
And they're actually going to have deflation first, but technically, we can get into an economics wonkery class, but basically the interest rates have been kept down for so long, and there's such a large amount of money out there, especially with these stimulus checks out of nowhere. Everyone's going to have some money, and everyone's going to think, well, I can raise the prices some more, except it's going to come to the point where the piper needs to be paid, and no one's going to, there's nothing there to pay them, and they're just going to start collapsing. Anyway, that's another topic for another day.
Right.
Lies and truth, everyone. We got to figure out a way to get the truth out there some more, and that's what we're here for. We are the two American patriots, average Americans who love to talk about the current events, and we keep bringing them to you. We appreciate you listening to us, and we can't thank you enough as we come up on our 50th show next on Wednesday. There, Alpha, be our 50th show.
Wow, how time flies!
Amazing, isn't it? 50 shows, and we appreciate all those who follow us and kind of stick with us and give us comments, and we really can't be more appreciative and humbled by the experience that we've had so far. Well,
on that note, it's Sunday night. It's a little bit late. We'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. We value your time greatly, and we do appreciate you coming to listen to us. Be sure to check out our website at signal50.com. It'll give you all of the outlets for our podcast, as well as our commentary page, and our link to Rumble and our Parler channels and Telegram as well. And on that note, listen, we'd like to thank our soldiers, sailors, and airmen for for protecting us 24/7, 365, our fire department, police, and medical first responders out there in the field that work with us on a daily basis to keep us safe. And we can't thank them enough for their service. It's really tough out there. It's just tough. I'm glad I've kind of retired from all that, and I can't imagine the guys that still do it. So we'd like to thank them very, very much for what they do for us. And on that note, Bravo, thanks for joining me. Everybody, thanks for joining us. God bless America, and cue the music.
Take care, everyone. Again, thanks for listening. This is the end of our Signal 50 transmission.